So I saw this yesterday and I hesitated to bring it forward because I was trying, and I did this yesterday. I Googled the number of times Russian mutiny, Russians revolt, anything along these lines that I could think of that could prove that this was the case. Now, Newsweek covered this as well, but they covered it with this Twitter thread. So I'm going to read the Twitter thread and then I'm going to ask you if you can find any additional proofs. I'm not saying this is happening, but Chris Owicki has done a pretty good job so far and has a reasonably decent track record. And so I'm saying there might be something here, and if there is something here, it's very telling about the state of the Russian army. So here we go. We're going to read through. There's like 23 of these posts, and I highlighted the certain sections that are important. Number one, hundreds of Russian soldiers may have mutinied in recent weeks as the Russian army accumulates huge losses in offensives in several regions of Ukraine. At least 173 men are reported to have been detained for refusing orders. If that's so, that's a very small amount, but it's still a pretty significant thing that's happening. Okay, two, Astra reports, and Astra is a Telegram channel, and I'll show you what we're talking about in just a little bit. Astra reports that it has received almost daily messages from the relatives of men who have been detained in occupied regions of Ukraine after refusing to join assaults. They have told similar stories of drunken commanders and lack of ammunition, artillery, food, and water. And I've seen a number of those kind of reports. Number three, the ongoing heavy fighting around Kupiansk and Avdiivka is said to have been the cause of the number of revolts. Well, they're getting decimated there. Astra has so far recorded the existence of at least 16 places in the occupied regions of Ukraine where Russian soldiers have been illegally detained. Number five, according to Astra, it's likely that the 173 military personnel Astra knows about, and so there could be many more, are just the tip of the iceberg. Number six, the suggestion of much larger numbers is given credence by the comment of relative of one of the detainees that men being transferred to Zatsvi were turned away because the facility, which can accommodate at least 230 men, was already full. Well, that's something. The Russian army is reportedly taking men from Zatsvi and other detention facilities in Ukraine to training grounds in Russia, where they are reformed into units and sent via Rostov to frontline hotspots to carry out assaults. So they're just repackaged, sent back out to the front rather than just detained. Astra reports that around 50 men from the 15th Motorized Rifle Regiment were taken from a detention facility in Raspin, Donetsk region to a training ground in Russia's Kursk region. And I'll show you on a map where these things are in just a moment. The men were told that they would be sent to Rostov and from there join the ongoing assault on Avdiivka. Okay, I'm sure that was not pleasant news given what has happened in Avdiivka. And I'm sure the word has spread through the Russian army like Avdiivka is probably not a great place to be. Okay, at first I went to Zatsvi, but there was no one in Zatsvi, and I found out that they were being held in Raspni. I went over, knocked, showed him my lawyer's ID. I told him, I know for a fact that my clients are here. I want to talk to him, but he did not even look at me. He said, wait, and left. When he came back, he said, there's no one here. I asked him, what are you doing here with weapons then? He repeated again, there's no one here, leave here. The men later told relatives they had been sent to Postali Dvory training range in the Kerch region. A relative says, according to my son, they will be formed into assault troops. The guys are dirty, not dressed, morally depressed. They don't know what to do. You can at least believe that part. If you're saying I'm not going to fight, that's probably an appropriate picture. The wife of another man says, my husband is a mobilized man. He refused to go on the offensive in Mavika. Today, he managed to call from someone else's number. They are near Kursk, waiting for a car to Rostov. As I understand it, from there the plane will be heading toward Avdiivka. He said they called the prosecutor's office, but they were told an order is an order. Now, that's interesting. Like, when you have to really force someone to go do something, like, I order you, it's always the exciting thing in a TV or movie drama. I order you, right? I'm not a military guy. I was in Army ROTC for 2 years, and one of the things that they impressed on us is if you ever have to give an order, you've already failed in leadership. Okay, anyway, an order is an order. The local military police are threatening to bring the riot police. They will still go to the front, but already beaten. The men's commander said openly to them that they were merely, quote, a means to an end, unquote, according to another relative. Way to motivate. You get an F from me for leadership. The guys understood that they wouldn't take the position and would end up lying there dead themselves, right? I mean, it's hard to motivate somebody who, when you're sending them to their death, and they know it. After the men's whereabouts became known to their relatives and their lawyers, they were reportedly taken to Voronezh to be hidden from their relatives and lawyers. Okay? So when you got to hide them, that's kind of a problem. According to Astrosaurus, the men have been taken either to Pogovno training base in the Voronezh region or Baltimore Voronezh Malshelvo Air Base in a convoy of trucks. Some of the men have attempted to stand firm. Relatives say that men who have already gone to Baltimore told their captors, call anyone you want. We are not going anywhere from here. They said they have been denied medical care and access to lawyers. Others have agreed under pressure to return to Ukraine, but around 30 are said to have then revolted again when they were about to board an aircraft to take them to Rostov and from there back to Ukraine. So they don't want to fight, and there's a reason that they don't want to fight, right? We are standing here. They offer us some weapons to take, not ours at all. Old, used, we refuse. We will not get on the plane. We are waiting for the military prosecutor's office. The wife of one of the refuseniks said, that's the term that they're using, refuseniks, said that they are given the wrong weapons. No one knows why. They take everything. Half of them have already been sent on the plane. They were intimidated to such an extent that people stopped standing their ground. They sent them without documents. My husband is still waiting for the prosecutor, but it is unknown how this will end. A relative of the man from the 59th Tank Regiment says his phone, belongings, and expensive equipment were all taken from him. By the way, he purchased this with his own personal funds. Like he's buying other equipment because he's trying to equip himself. An hour ago, he called and said that they are in Rostov waiting for a flight to an unknown destination, stripped, hungry, dirty. The guys have not bathed for more than 3 weeks. He said there were about 100 people with him. One of the men has told relatives that if they refuse to follow their orders, they will be reset, and reset means shot. Okay, so here are the places that we talked about here that I couldn't pronounce very well. Okay, and if you understand the geography of Ukraine, this is just inside Luhansk. Here's Rostov, and these other places, they're being shuttled around in Russia. Okay, now it concludes, while the number of men who have apparently mutinied is small in relation to the overall size of the Russian army in Ukraine, and it is a few hundred thousand, upwards of 400,000 Russian soldiers, and we're only talking about a few hundred here. The recent large increase in the number of refuseniks highlights the stresses that the Russian forces are currently experiencing. And that's the end of the Twitter thread. Okay, so I hesitated to bring that forward because as I'm looking at it, while this is interesting, anybody can put anything out on Twitter. ChrisOWiki happens to be a fairly reliable source so far in my experience, and he also put his sources from Astra Press. Now, what's Astra Press? So if you go on Telegram, you go here to Astra Press, and I just translated it because it was all in Russian, translated it to English, or just, had Google auto-translated, and so you can see what it's saying. Astra is a media of independent journalists created without funds and support us here, and so, but they're independent journalists, so maybe you're getting truth, maybe you're not. I wanted to validate it, and so I kept doing things like Googling, Russian soldiers refuse to fight, and I find nothing. And then I found, like, here's a Russian soldiers mutiny, and there is one article in Newsweek, and they're talking about the same thing, but they're also going back only to the Astra source and ChrisOWiki. So like here's Astra, and then a little bit further is ChrisOWiki. So I can't really validate that it's going on, but it looks like there might be something to this. Okay, if there is a mutiny brewing like that, it's because they know, like, you don't mutiny against, like, I'm about to win, let's mutiny. Like, you don't do it for that. You do it because you know that your commanders are incompetent, or you know that this is a death trap or a death sentence, and you don't want to be involved in that. So, this is a pretty powerful thing, especially like, so there's kind of a stalemate. The Ukrainian counteroffensive has not gone all that well. It's been very hard getting through. The Russian counteroffensive, where they're trying to take Avdiivka, has gone even worse, right? So it's bad, and they don't want to go into it, and I understand that they don't, but we don't know the scale of it. It could be far larger than this, or it could be isolated, and we don't know. We haven't been able to really verify all the facts, but I'd like to hear what you think about this. Please put that in the comments below. If you have extra material, like if you have other ways of confirming this, I particularly want to hear from you. Thank you so much in advance for sharing that. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, the coffees. I appreciate all of that. I work really hard at trying to provide you context and help you understand what's going on in the war in Ukraine.